The Battle of Lepanto. How St. Pius V, through the Most Holy Rosary, saved Christendom. At Rome of St. Pius V, Pope, who labored zealously and successfully for the reestablishment of ecclesiastical discipline, the extirpation of heresies, the destruction of the enemies of the Christian name, and governed the Catholic Church by holy laws. Martyrologium Romanum. The year is 1571, and the Mohammedans in the East seem unstoppable. They have captured Constantinople over a century earlier, shattering the last vestiges of the Roman Empire in the East. Now, with the fall of Cyprus, they were poised to push westward and dominate the Mediterranean, threatening Christian lands, Christian people, and the very heart of Europe itself. But God raised up a shepherd to defend his flock. His Holiness Pope St. Pius V saw clearly the danger ahead, not just to the Church, but to all of Christendom. He knew that this was not the time for fear or hesitation. He called upon the Christian rulers of Europe to rally to the defense of the faith. Yet in a divided Europe, torn by rivalries in the Protestant Reformation, only two answered the call: Spain, under the devout King Philip II, and Venice, the great maritime republic, whose very survival depended on the sea. Together they formed the backbone of the Holy League, a coalition brought into being largely through the tireless efforts of St. Pius V. But Pope St. Pius knew that cannons, ships, and soldiers alone would not win this war. He turned, as all great saints do, to heaven. He ordered churches throughout Europe to be filled with the faithful, praying the Most Holy Rosary. He led processions through the streets of Rome, fasting, weeping, and calling on the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Pope urged all of Christendom to fall to its knees, because he understood that this was not just a war of empires, but a spiritual battle for the soul of Europe. On October 7th, 1571, the two mighty fleets met in the Gulf of Lepanto. The Christian forces under the command of Don John of Austria faced a much larger Ottoman fleet. The battle raged for hours, with cannon fire, clashing swords, and desperate fighting on deck. And then something extraordinary happened. Far away in Rome, as the Pope met with his cardinals, he was suddenly overcome. Rising from his chair, he walked to a window, looked to the heavens, and, with tears streaming down his face, proclaimed that the Christian fleet had been victorious. Hours before any rider could deliver the news, the Pope knew, because heaven had made it known to him. When the news was finally confirmed, Pope Pius V knew whom to thank. He declared October 7th, the Feast of Our Lady of Victory, later renamed the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, to honor Mary's intercession and the power of prayer. The Battle of Lepanto was not just a military victory. It was a miracle, the triumph of Christian unity, prayer, and trust in God. While Don John of Austria led the fleet on the waves, it was Pope St. Pius V who led Christendom in prayer, storming heaven with the Rosary. So today, on this great feast of this great saint, let us remember that the Rosary is not a mere string of beads, but a weapon against evil, and let us pray as St. Pius did, for the protection of the Church, for the conversion of sinners, and for peace in our troubled world.